Jimmy, if you send a vehicle out my way, don't send one of the new ones. I know Steve and the guys are getting spot there. It is bad, but Tyler's working on it. Bigger truck would be nice. He could hold out the fill the holes more, one hole at a time. Farm Bureau is hitting the ground running at the legislative session. Lewis had talked on broadband quite a bit. We're very supportive of that concept and really working hard. That's one of our priorities, to get a few more dollars of that to make sure it gets up and running a little better. One of the things we've touched on, and Secretary of State touched on at our meeting last week, was initiative petitions reform, trying to tweak that a little bit. This state still makes it fairly easy for anybody to come up with an idea, a constitutional amendment or something for our state. We don't want to take that away, but we sure like to make it a little harder to do, because it's so easy to get things put on a ballot. We have a lot of amendments to our Constitution, just people are voting on it, and the wording isn't always what you think it is, what we're doing. So have a little more oversight on that and make it a little more difficult in a way, but not prevent it from happening. So we're working on those things. Prescription drug monitoring, we're the only state in the nation that does not have a prescription drug monitoring program. We're working with legislators on that. I think the Senate voted on it recently. We're hoping that the House will be able to carry that through and pass it. But
we got it.
You got it covered.
They're behind us.
Okay, you got it first. Okay, so I know our senator's not real supportive of it at this time, and I haven't personally got to visit with her about it. But I think that's something that's important as we talk about opioid abuse, the heroin addiction. I think a lot of that falls together from some of the meetings I've been at. You know, they get hooked on the painkillers and things, and eventually can't find that or can't get the money to get it. So then heroin's a lot cheaper and it's more available. So then we have more thefts, and it just compounds it. So I think there's an opportunity there to make some improvements for our state, and the doctors and pharmacists and prescription places to have a database where they know what's going on and minimize some of those things. Feral hogs is a big problem more in the southern part of the state, but we're very supportive of the conservation department and trying to do more to help eradicate that. They've spent a lot of money, a lot of taxpayer money trying to do that, to get ahead of them, doing more trapping and things, and they're helping. But it's I mean, it's a terrible thing if you've got them in those areas. I mean, they get to affecting other animals, livestock and things, and they just devastate crops, timber, and other things. So it's really a nuisance. So they're trying to do some things there. Transportation funding, the governor talked about bridges and trying to have a bonding issue maybe through the state. At this point, we're supportive of that. The caveat is it's dealing with bridges that are already on the plans to be done. We're not always for trying to borrow more money to do things, but we know these bridges need to be taken care of. It's an idea, so it's being talked about a lot. So we're supportive of that at this point, as long as they stick with the bridges that are planned to be done already in that phase. Brian mentioned Waters of the U.S. I had an opportunity to go to Kansas City last night to speak give comment on behalf of the Missouri Farm Bureau to the EPA, Corps of Engineers, and Army, dealing with the changing of the rule. They have a new draft proposed rule that right now we're supportive of. It's interesting in going to that and listening, and I was one of 20 people that spoke for 30 minutes and then bring another group, but just sitting in those meetings, Lewis gets it when he's in committee meetings, but some of the people ahead of me were, okay, here's an example, a lady that moved from Texas to Kansas City, Kansas. In Texas, her and the kids could name all the different frogs that was in their neighborhood, and found all these different frogs. And they moved over to the park, and there's no frogs, so there's got to be a problem with the water. We've got to have stricter regs on water quality. We have somebody else that's from Oklahoma that's concerned about the Illinois River and of how it's being polluted. And I'm standing next to a guy from Illinois who goes, I don't think Illinois River goes to Oklahoma. What's this have to do with this? So there's people, the water's so bad the kids won't even drink out of the water fountains at schools. I'm like, this EPA is not water quality for drinking water. That's state and local. And that's our stance on it. Is the new rule is it's a little cleaner, a little more self-explanatory. People understand it. They're defining the terminology, which they hadn't done in the past. The last rule, it was over 95% of all the land in Missouri would fall under EPA's jurisdiction. whether it's a city park or farm ground or pastures or any place where water could be, or a ditch where water would sometimes run, be under their jurisdiction, and you'd have to get permits to do so much. So there was a builder company there on behalf of a lot of home builder associations, and he even talked about how this is much better. There's more clarity to it. They understand what they need to do in the rules. So you'll have an opportunity. That's still open for public comment. Steve, if you want to listen to the YouTube video for 45 minutes, you can hear somebody from EPA give a PowerPoint presentation talking about the new rule changes, defining it all.
I've dealt with them enough.
Okay. But I think, I mean, for Missouri Farm Bureau, that's been one of our big priority issues on the federal level as far as regulatory reform, and we support the Trump administrations on tackling that and looking forward to the final rule, what it's going to be. But by far there was 15 or 20 people I heard speak. There was probably less than half were with supportive of it, but it was people at the Sierra Club or the water keepers or something. And I get it, they want clean water, but they think we need more rules, and they have the EPA more bearing. We're saying leave it to the states, the tribes, to have jurisdictional duty over the majority of the land in their area to help determine how you want to regulate those things. So that's a little more you need to know. I mean, I should have been more bored with it, but that's kind of what was going on that front. We'll have a delegation of folks going out in Washington, D.C. in a couple of weeks, meeting with congressional members, Mr. Graves, Vicki Hartsler, almost all of the Missouri Congressional Nation will be there. We'll have an opportunity to talk with them, visit with them, along with getting some updates from American Farm Bureau staff, going to USDA, getting some updates from there. So we'll spend 3 or 4 days doing those things, making hill visits, talking about the issues, helping represent all Missourians, and helping make any difference on that. So that, I'd answer any questions. Monroe City does have a bond issue going on, but this will be a tax increase, but replacing an elementary building over a 5-year period, replacing an old ag building that's been there since 1947 with a new ag building, and replacing an elementary from the 1930s, so trying to do some upgrades in a 5-year plan, phasing it in over a time period, but you'll see some of that information from folks that live in the Monroe City School District. So with that, I'll turn it back over to Joe. Thank you.